Hello everyone, it's late November 2020 and today I'm going to do an unboxing of 8 cars that I ordered off eBay. And this time around I ordered from this seller here, Palace ZG. Interesting collection that this guy's selling off, or I'm not sure if he's a dealer. He's got over 3,000 items sold, so I'm not sure if he's a dealer or just selling off his personal collection. But I ordered these 8 and they showed up yesterday. So let's take a look here. We're going to do a little unboxing of this thing here. I'm a little concerned about this packaging. You can see it's mangled up, so we're going to see, hopefully there's no damage. If you guys ever sell anything on eBay, which I do sometimes, the most critical thing about shipping something safely is to have no product shifting, no movement of the product. You want to fill in any extra gaps with foam or bunched up newspapers, because obviously these things get thrown around, and then if there's any space for the product inside the box to move, it's probably going to break. So this is good, we got some newspaper bunched up to protect. Oh, I'm not sure if it was smart to just jam the car against the side of the box there. Let's see what happens. But everything else, seems to be put in another box with some foam. I don't know if that was cracked before. These are the originals. Okay, so hopefully there's no damage claim necessary. But yeah, again, let's take a look at this box. They got tossed around, obviously. Hopefully it's starting to fall apart. Also note that it rains in countries, so that damages cardboard boxes as well. So it might be good to get a box that has a little waterproofing. Or, cover the whole thing up in tape to protect yourself. Anyways, let's start with that first one here. I should have a Ferrari 158 here by Kyosho. And I did a little research on all these cars, try to make these educational. This 158 is a 1.5 liter V8 engine. And it's the first monocoque Formula 1 car for Ferrari as a brand. And I guess this thing won the F1 World Championships with John Surtees in 1964. So, looks pretty, it's alright. It's kind of basic, to be honest with you. It's not a clear windshield. It's a painted windshield. It's got a chip, but, it's used, so I gotta accept that, So, but I do love the fact that Kyosho writes the model name on the bottom. And this was licensed in 2004, so I have a general idea of how old this model is. And being 2020, this is an old model, so I can accept the quality of its day. It has like the Hot Wheels axle showing and stuff like that. Alright, anyways, let's continue on. We'll let that spin, actually. Alright, so here's a CM's model, and it's a Lancia Stratos HF. And the HF in that name is supposed to mean high fidelity. I guess at the time in the 1970s, hi-fi stereo, stuff like that. And let's take a look here. No, CM's doesn't put any names on the bottom of their cars. Kind of silly, but whatever. Let's let that spin around. There's an antenna missing from the roof. I know this because I bought different CM's. And it has a little piece of plastic that goes into the hole there of the roof. Oh well, I'll have to fashion one up. It's just melt a piece of plastic or something, stretch it out to make an antenna. Alright, no super big deal, but looking at this, it's got some nice printing going on. There's a little black side mirror there. Pretty cool. Yeah, it looks pretty good. No major problems. Plastic headlights. The wheels look pretty good, and some plastic taillights there. Very nice model. A little more information on this. This is the first design for Lancia by Bertone, the design house Bertone or Bertone. Before they used Pininfarina, which is very common for Ferraris and stuff like that. But Bertone took a Fulvia and wrapped a new body around it and proposed this to Lancia, and they loved it. And this thing went on to win the World Rally Championships in 1974, 75, 76. So it was quite a successful car, It was also supposedly the first specific car built for rally racing. So prior to that, people were taking stock cars they'd buy from a showroom and then modify them to rally. But Lancia actually looked at the rules of rally racing and designed this car around those rules and then sold them to the public in small quantities. So that's it. I found that interesting to find out. It actually would have been more successful if the Fiat group kept money going into this car, but instead they pushed it on to the Fiat 131, which consequently won the World Rally Championship in 77, 78, and 1980. So, cool. Very cool. We'll let that continue on. Alright, what's next? Let's do this Mazda Cosmo Sport. So while this is, we'll let the Lancia keep spinning while I unscrew this from the box. And this Mazda Cosmo Sport, I guess, came out in 1967 and it was produced up until 1972. It's the first Wankel motor for production cars by Mazda. You know, the rotary motors. And it had 2 rotors in this engine. So it was actually named Cosmo because at the time, you know, the late 60s, everything was all about the space race. So Cosmo, space, you know, they're trying to just say, hey, we're a futuristic company. We have this Wankel rotary engine, and this is our car to showcase that technology. So as you guys may know now, you know, rotary engines are not as efficient as regular piston engines, but they're still around in the RX-8, RX-7s, and obviously, well, those are the most famous uses of them, I guess. Alright, so around 2,000 cars of these were built. And let's see what it says on the bottom. Yeah, 164th. Just says it's the sport version. I'm not sure if it's the first or second generation, but alright, interesting. Alright, I'm going to move on to the 240Z. Now this is a Kyosho. This next one here, this 240Z, is by Aoshima. So it's another Japanese brand, and Aoshima is really known for making plastic model kits. But I guess they have a little side thing going on where they make, you know, finished die-cast cars. I've never built one of their larger car model kits, but it wouldn't surprise me if they had this car in like a larger scale as a plastic model kit. Alright, so let's let that thing spin around. So the 240Z, if you're in America and you're old like me, you might remember that this car helped introduce the Japanese reputation of making things that are not just economy boxes. This is supposed to be a sporty car, but inexpensive, competing against other German cars and the like. So prior to this car, there really weren't popular Japanese sports cars in America. This was called the Fairlady Z, the Nissan Fairlady Z in Japan itself. But in America, they changed it to the Datsun 240Z. And I guess there were lines to buy these things. I was still a kid when this thing came to America. But yeah, it was cool. I'll notice here the headlight popped out, but luckily I found it in that packaging. So I'm going to add this little plastic headlight insert a little later. Or, well, I'll have to make sure it's glued in later. But the model is pretty cool. And then my first Aoshima, it does say, at least the brand here, Aoshima. Unfortunately, it doesn't say the model number. It doesn't say 240Z, what year it is, that kind of stuff. I really wish companies did that, so for posterity, you'll know what this is in the future. Alright, well anyways, while that spins on, I'm going to move on to the Laurel, Nissan Laurel, which I guess is this car. I can't read Japanese, but the eBay listing showed this as the Nissan Laurel. And the Nissan Laurel is, I guess, the middle range from Nissan at the time, whereas the Bluebird / Datsun 510 was a small car, and then this is their mid-size car, and then the top end would be the Cedric or the Gloria, which would be their large car, and I have a few of those coming later. They're in the boxes. Alright, so anyways, for this guy, we got a nice cool metallic brown color, very shiny. Now I've come to realize buying all these old cars, a lot of them have paint rash, but this one does not. Does the Z? The Z's got a little bit of bubbling, I guess, going on the. Yeah, the Z's purple paint here Seems to have a tiny bit of bubbling that I've come to expect from these old cars. But as I've read online and some of you other reviewers have mentioned, metallic paints tend to resist that. And so far I have to say that's running true with the cars I've bought. Alright, so the Nissan Laurel here. This is a front engine, rear wheel drive. Most Japanese cars, I guess in the 60s and 70s, were that way. All wheel drive didn't come till much later. Alright, so this is the third generation of the Nissan Laurel, and it came out in 1977 and was produced until 1980. Alright, so while that goes on, ooh, this is going to be interesting. Oh, they are opened. Okay, yeah. Well, I guess they had to be opened because I knew what color they were when I ordered them online. But I guess these are the boxes for them. The Best Collection number 2. Let's see if I can get this up here. Obviously Japanese here. Got your variations in this collection. Yeah, whatever, you can look that stuff up online. So let's get back to the spinning thing. I have these little CD DVDs that I put sandpaper on and made little diorama coasters out of them. Alright, so this next car coming up is the Cedric Generation 4, or body code 330, and it's this nice metallic blue. So these Aoshimas are called silhouette racers, you know, meaning they're supposed to mimic the styling of a stock vehicle, kind of like you see in NASCAR and stuff like that. But then they just modify the heck out of all the other panels outside of the greenhouse usually. So, you know, the center section is generally the same as a stock car, but everything else is just totally radical. And I just love these crazy JDM styled vehicles. I mean, the practicality of this front downforce lip is just insane. It's so far out and it's so low. Like, you could not go over a speed bump or even onto a ramp with this thing. I'm not sure how they would have transported this thing around. Interesting. Anyways, the Gen 3 model of the Cedric 330 came out in 1975 and ran until 1979. They came with either 4-cylinder or 6-cylinder inline engines. So, pretty cool. Again, it's probably just going to say Aoshima on the bottom and made in China. And yes, that's all it says. Interesting details, yeah. Yeah, plastic insert headlights there. Hopefully you can focus. Come on. Yeah, it's not painted. Those are actually plastic headlights. Plastic taillights. Yeah. Blank license plate, though. Just a blank white license plate. Alright, so the next one is a Cedric, but the next generation, so it'd be the 5th generation of the Nissan Cedric. So these Cedrics are considered the large vehicles, or the large size models offered by Nissan at the time. So look at this. I love this color. It's like I can't say it's not really a metallic flake. It's the base color's metallic, and then they shot a translucent pink over it. So it looks almost like a chrome pink or something, but there's actually no mica flakes in the paint. Pretty cool. Anyways, the 5th generation of the Cedric ran from 1979 to 1983 and often was used as taxis. I think all these Cedrics were very common as taxis. But you know the bodywork, the custom bodywork on this isn't as radical as that previous blue one, which is just really over the top. But I like it. You know, the paint color itself is quite radical. So you notice these do have side mirrors molded in. Nice clear, crisp glass. Yeah, they do have plastic insert headlights. They're just, I don't know, they're not particularly, at least on the pink car. I think this is kind of a plain looking front. But I guess maybe the original car may have been like this, I'm not sure. But But the rear is pretty nice. I like the detail of the rear more than the front. It's just the design of the car, I guess. Alright, so while those two spin, we'll get to the last one, which is a Skyline. So, it turns out, through my research, that Prince Motor Corporation developed the Skyline. That was called the Prince Skyline. Back in 1957, they started. But then 1967, 10 years later, Nissan merged with the companies. So now, in today's world, we know them as Nissan Skylines. So, but originally they were called Prince Skylines because the car company was called Prince. Okay, so now I am noticing on this one, I don't know if you can see on the roof here, it's a little scratch of some sort. Zoom. Maybe a little, you might consider that a tiny bit of paint rash. I'm not sure when this series came out. I'll take a look at the box here. I don't see a year on it. No, okay, my bad. So, obviously a smaller car compared to the Cedric. So this might be also considered a mid-sized car. Let's bring back that Laurel. Let's get the focus first, yeah. Yeah, I would say the Laurel and the Skyline are of similar dimensions. So, you know, I guess it just kept both lines running. There were enough customers to keep both of them running. So again, with this last model I put down, the taillights are pretty cool. I like those. But the front end is kind of lame. I mean, compared to other diecasts of today. Trying to zoom here. It's having a hard time distinguishing the clear plastic against that black grill, I guess. There we go. Yeah, you know, so there's just nothing behind those plastic inserts. So it lacks the realism, I guess, I'm become accustomed to with more modern diecast cars. But at least they're not painted, you know. That's something I've grown to hate about Greenlight. They just paint their headlights on, in most cases. It's weak. So plastic obviously is a better way to go because there's depth. You can see through the translucency of the plastic, you know, like real headlight and taillight lenses. So I guess one thing, if I could criticize about this line, is the wheels. They're styled nicely, but you know, they're just solid. Like there should be air between those spokes, but it's just solid plastic there. And that's the case with all of these. You know, with a wire wheel like this, like a BBS type wheel, I can understand because you can't mold the plastic that thin. But with giant spokes like this blue one, I mean, it has 4 spokes. I don't know why they didn't choose to just have the air between the spokes because it's a 2-part plastic mold. They could have easily done it. I mean, it's clearly possible in pretty much every other diecast, right? This Kyosho does it. The air spaces are there between the spokes. Even this super old Kyosho, the air space is there. Hot Wheels does it. I mean, it's just weird. It's a really poor decision, I think, by the company to make their wheels look so cheap. I'm not sure if these things are just cheap when they were first sold at retail. You know, if these are like $5 cars, then I could understand. But if they're, but still, even if it's a $5 car, that's a lot more than a Hot Wheels. So, anyways, that's my criticism. But as a whole, I'm happy with all of them, and I'm happy with the seller, Palace ZG, and I'll be probably buying more from him in the future. I guess the only criticism is I don't know where the antenna for this went, but it might have not even been in the listing, so that's my fault for not catching it. And it's not too hard to make a little black antenna for a 1/64 scale car. Okay, I'm rambling on. It's been 20 minutes. Alright, I'll catch you guys the next time.